Ready when you are. Okay, so we're live.
We're live?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Just give people a few minutes to join, share the link and things. But so talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
Yeah.
Hopefully the wind's going to die down. Oh, there's a spot of drizzle, I feel.
Yeah.
Just in time.
Hopefully this week we're trying a new setup for the sound. So hopefully, fingers crossed and touch wood, you will be able to hear us better. We're looking into ways to improve the stream as we go. I think that's just a comment from here as well.
Yeah, it's just fancy numbers.
Oh, no, can't.
Yeah, can we? Okay. Time we are. We'll give it one more minute and we'll let people join, and then we'll let you know who we are and what we're here to talk about today.
If you couldn't guess from what we've got out here, or the post that we put up.
The pretty amazing picture of the bug metropolis. It's not quite a hotel, is it? It's a sky ride that's at Skelton Grange. We'll have to build one that's like a metre taller or 2 centimetres taller at Hollywood.
One mini beast taller.
Yeah. Trio. Brilliant. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Freya. And
I'm Alex.
And we work for the Conservation Volunteers, and we're based at TCV Hollybush. We work for TCV Leeds. And yeah, we're going to be doing a whistle-stop tour today of different types of wildlife habitat you can build in your garden. So we have already done a few videos in the past, doing these live streams every week through lockdown. So hopefully, Hazel, when we talk about them, we'll post some slightly more in-depth things. But there's a lot to talk about each thing. So, and we're just going to quickly run through the basics, the important facts, the important stuff that you need to know. And in a few weeks, some of them we'll do a more in-depth one on, and the ones we've already done a more in-depth one on, we'll post the links to show you what to look at. We're going to try and stick to about half an hour, but we might take up to an hour.
We might get carried away.
Just really like bees.
If you've got any questions at all throughout the live stream, whether you're a new watcher or old watcher, put it in the comments. Let us know any questions and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yeah, we'll try and answer them now. So if they pop up on our screen, we'll try and answer them live. But also we've got Hazel, who is doing tech support, so she's in the comments. So if you type things into the comments, then she should be able to send links potentially and things, or prompt us. Oh, have we got a question?
That is just a notification on my normal phone.
Oh, I got excited. Cool. Okay, so yeah, ask us questions in the comments, or get in touch if you've got any questions, or if you want to get any of the stuff that we're talking about. We do have quite a lot of this stuff available.
Yeah. So
yeah, shall we get started?
Yeah. So today we'll be talking about a few different habitats for things, little critters, mini beasts, larger beasts in your garden that you might want to attract. So we'll go through them one at a time. Freya is going to kick it off with something that is super simple to do. You can do in the space of like 10 minutes with people of all ages.
So we're going to start with habitat for invertebrates, making a mini beast hotel or a bug hotel. You might have heard of them. You might have seen them in parks near you, where you sort of get stacks of pallets, and they get stuff sort of stuffed in between. Or you can get little boxes that you can mount on a wall on the back of your shed or something like that. Yeah, they get called mini beast hotels or bug hotels. So we've got these kind of nice fancy ones where we've got like a nice wood frame with a sloped roof to keep them dry, and then we've got them filled with bits of wood. But you can also make quite simple ones. So we're going to send out instructions on how to do this in a post later. Keep an eye out for that. But I'm just going to demonstrate a really, really quick, simple one, which is, I've cut the top off already to speed it up. So with a plastic bottle, I've cut the top off, and you just fill it with sticks. So these are actually for solitary bees that you make these ones. So it depends what you fill it with. So I'm filling it with bamboo cake, chopped into lengths all the same, and you just stuff them in there. The important thing about the solitary bees is they have to have an open end. So this one's got, it's closed at the end. I don't know if you see something to get the open end. You don't need to use the bamboo canes if you want something other than solitary bees. So in some of them, we've got stuff like what Alex has got here.
Careful with this one, because this one, the wood inside has rotted, which is fine. That's good. It's food for the mini bees. That's why they like going in here. It's shelter, and they also break down the wood. This one here, the wood itself has got quite rotten and loose.
But the wood's less for bees, is it? Oh, we've got a woodlouse.
Oh, so there we go. There's a woodlouse here. So at the top of this one, I'll come in a bit closer. Bearing in mind, the microphone is over here. So I'll shout. So you can see here, because we have access to a drill, I think this is one that Tom's probably made. He's drilled holes in the top, which are about the same diameter as the ones in the bamboo. But if you don't have access to a drill, do things like this. You could fill the centre with bamboo. But yeah, then the lower bit is for other mini bees, like woodlice that just fell out of here. And they like to eat detritus. They like eating rotten plant material, like this rotten wood. Fortunately, if I go like this, there you go. It's all fallen out. So every so often, you need to check your mini bees hotels and make sure that it's nice and packed in, especially if it's front facing, because a gust of wind could just knock it all out and then expose all of your little mini beasts.
Yeah, like, so make sure, because you may be thinking, why do I want woodlice? Why do I want bees? I think a lot of us know about bees. Oh, have we gone off camera?
Oh, momentarily we've gone off.
What's going on?
Well, where's the other phone?
How many trouble connecting?
Oh, I think
Are you on Wi-Fi?
I'm not on Wi-Fi on my other phone. Hold on. Hopefully you should be able to still hear us. Okay, so you can still hear us, but we're frozen on the camera at the moment. So Peter Benefer has asked, what is the best email address to contact you on?
If you contact us
So you can talk
about what we're saying today, probably hollybush@tcv.org.uk. That's probably the best way to go. Sorry, just bear with us a minute. I'm not really sure what's happened. We've not had the camera cut out because of... This is new. We did have it once when we were trying to look at bees, but it was so hot. It was in the summer last year, and we were dressed in full bee suits looking at the beehive, and the camera was overheating because it was so hot, let alone us in our massive suits. So yeah, I'll keep talking. You don't necessarily need to see what we're looking at. So yeah, you want to keep things like the bees. So the bees, people know they're really good, important for pollinators. They're important for our food crops. So most of our food comes from things that produce flowers and therefore need pollinators to move between. But bees are far from the only pollinator. So loads of things like hoverflies and stuff, and beetles are really important in pollinating flowers. But just also in terms of ecosystems. So if you don't have a place for little invertebrates, little insects and things to reproduce and to live, there's no food for the birds. So you're spending all your time putting out your food on your bird feeder, which goes some of the way to substitute, but also you may well know feeds your squirrels and your other small furry mammals. But by making it so that there's actual insects, that's much more like the natural systems that the birds live in. So your songbirds and things, you may have heard about the sort of massive declines recently in numbers of songbirds. And by providing habitat for invertebrates, by providing bug hotels, you're providing food for songbirds. You're also just providing ways in cities and things and urban settings where the amount of habitat for these things has been cleared. Like a lot of people want to keep their gardens quite clear. A lot of people want their lawn mowed. You may even have pavings, and that's and then you've got roads which are tarmacs. You don't have that many hedges in urban setting. By creating these sort of habitat boxes, you can add a place for these creatures to carry on living, and you can sort of make a slightly less sterile area. But they can still look really nice. They can still look really neat. They can still look really tidy. Alex just moved the microphone. I think we're going to have to change over.
We are, unfortunately. So you might not be able to hear us quite as well now. Sorry, my personal phone is playing up with data at the moment.
Oh, dear.
I think I've just used the last bit.
Oops.
And we can't quite connect to the Wi-Fi, but we'll shout a bit more, I think. We project the
camera. So what we've got is, I'm making something that's really simple, but you can make these ones that we looked at earlier that are quite attractive. They look quite nice. You can attach it to the end of your shed, and it looks like quite a nice, neat, pretty thing. But this is a really simple one that you can make this with your kids, you can make this with family, and it's just a really quick exercise. So, as I was saying, you've got the logs and things, the bits of wood, the bits of stick. We'll demonstrate what other stuff you can use in a second. That's for sort of stuff that other than bees. I'm doing this, but you wouldn't need to do it with the bamboo. You could do it with the other habitat types, but we'll head with bees. So you can see I've sort of filled it up. There's still a little bit of a gap at the top here. You really want to make sure that when you're putting things in, you're really, really packing them in.
You can use a mallet as well, maybe not for bamboo, but things like sticks. Sorry.
It's just important that you make sure that they are really compacted, because they will break down a little bit, like we saw with the ones that Alex was chucked to the floor earlier. They'll break down over time. They will dry out. They'll just get slightly less tight fitting. So you start pushing it down. The more they're wedged in now, the less likely they are to just, on a breezy day like today, to just fall out. And if you run out, if you're sort of, so what I've got at the moment, I'm struggling to get the bamboo poles in, but it's still wobbling a little bit, like these bits are moving. So you can just get some little sticks. So I've got some old offcuts of willow, and you can use the little sticks just to fill in the gaps, just to make sure that it's not going to just fall out.
It's as snug as a bug in a bug hotel.
Way! Well done, Alex. So just wedge it in, make it as compacted as possible, and then you can just make some little holes in it, or you can wrap some string around it and you can just hang this up. And this one's not the most beautiful one, but it is quite a good example of recycling a plastic bottle, and also something that you can do as a really quick activity with stuff you've got around the house, and you can just hang that up. Or yeah, you can get into these more professional ones, or professional, neater looking ones, more shop bought looking.
Yeah.
And yeah, you could fill this with bamboo as well. One thing you can do is, if you're struggling with things falling out from, is you can get some chicken wire. So you can just cut a bit of chicken wire and you can sort of staple that across the front. And it's quite easy to remove, but that can just hold the stuff in place a little bit better if you are finding that it's falling out. And the mini beasts can still get in and out, but the wood can't.
I think, sort of, as we round up the mini beast hotel, I think it's a great thing for parents to do with young children that are trying to teach them from home. You know, if you're trying to teach kids maths 24/7 from home, sometimes having a little outdoor break, teaching them a bit about the science of mini beasts, and then having a look, if you've got access from those tiny little, magnifying glasses, it'd be good to teach them about the mini beasts, or learn yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also really nice, so you can hang this up, and so the ones that you get in the bamboo ones a lot of the time. So you move that way a little bit so I can get. So the ones with these ones, the Masonry Bees, are quite often the ones that use these. So Masonry Bees, we talked about them more in the bee video we talked about earlier, but they're not actually, they don't form a hive like a honeybee. They are solitary bees, but they tend to they go back to the place when they were born, so you kind of end up with something that looks a little bit like a small colony, but actually they're all sort of living their life quite independently. But you'll see them over the summer, so they go and they lay their eggs and they produce their larvae down each of these tubes. They'll make little cells running up it, and you'll sort of see them going backwards and forwards during the summer. So you hang this up. So this one you'd want to hang on the sunny side of your shed, and then you can sit there during the summer watching bees all coming back. You'll see them in your garden on your flowers with the pollen on their backs and on their sides, and they've had the sort of nectar sac. And you'll see them going in, and they'll be topping up the nectar that's in these. They'll be feeding up the larvae, and then you'll see that once they've been used, they'll sort of bung them up. They build sort of almost like cob, like clay, that they bung up the ends. So you'll be able to see which ones have been used. And so you can go and you can see and you can know that there's a masonry bee that's reproduced and is breeding in there. So you'll know that more bees will be coming out of your habitat next year. And the earlier you get these up, the better. They do like to have the full season for gathering food. And it's just really cool. And just make sure you replace them every year, because something that does affect invertebrate bees in particular, and also birds and things, like if they use the same nest site every year, it builds up parasites, it builds up pests. So by clearing it out each year, so with these around sort of October time, end of summer, they'll have, I mean late winter, when they've emerged.
Yeah. You'll be able to tell.
I'm thinking about hedgehogs now. Once they've emerged, you can then clear them out. So in spring, replace them with new ones. So about now, probably, will be when the bees emerge.
Good time to start doing them.
And just replace them all with new ones. And yeah, then you'll have a happy new set of. And if you've got something like this, just make a new one, put that up, and then get rid of this one when all the bees emerge. Cool. And yeah, we have lots of sticks, because we would be showing you all the beautiful habitat boxes we have around site at Hollybush. Unfortunately, we've been in lockdown for a year, so we haven't had a chance to replace the things we should. You can we've got all these cut to length ones, which are sort of just before lockdown. We were making all of these, so our volunteer groups, the Green Gyms, had been making loads and loads of cut lengths of bamboo ready to restock our mini beast hotels in the garden. But then a plague happened, so here we are, using them a year later for you on the internet.
So that was. I'll get on camera really quick. So that was one that was done in, how long did that take? 5-10 minutes. Super.
While having technical difficulties in the live stream.
Super easy to do. You're recycling a plastic bottle. It's using materials you've probably already got access to. But if you've got a bit more spare time, which I think a lot of us do at the moment, you can get super creative. And this is one that I think one of the volunteers has done. Yeah. We found in the shed. It is beautiful. Look at that bee.
So that a bit of dusting.
It could. It's been in a dusty shed for almost a year now. Yeah. So this is a bee one again. You can see it's got the holes drilled in to the logs, and yeah, it's really, really beautiful. So you can get as creative as you want with these. Really, you can have a project that takes 5 minutes, or you can have a project that probably take a few days.
Or you can just get a log and just drill some holes in the end of it. So those are for bees. Those sort of thin tubes are the bees ones.
Although I'm sure spiders and things like that wouldn't mind as well. Like anything is better than having nothing. Yeah. Things will appreciate whatever you do.
Really, you can use a massive variety of things. You can use air bricks, or the bricks, just normal bricks that have the holes in. You can use pipes. You can use umbrella for stems, so things like cow parsley. Don't use giant hogweed though. Avoid giant hogweed. That's a terrible plant. But any plant that's died back and has a hollow stem, you can use. We've got rolled up balls of Hessian sack in one. Got old pine cones can be stacked up. I think Hazel found an excellent picture earlier of sort of 2 hanging baskets made into a ball with pine cones in. Yeah, any fabric with thick weed, you can ball that up. One thing you do want to make sure is like with people, like with any house, you want to make sure it's got a roof on it that it's keeping fairly dry. They don't want it to be wet, they don't want to be soggy. It will also just rot and fall apart a little bit quicker if it's wet, if it's getting wet and soggy. So yeah, do make sure it's got a roof, or if you have something like this, if this stuck out further, you could pop it underneath so it's sheltered, protected by something you've already got. Yeah.
So bees like things that are dry, but there are some creatures like woodlice that, if you go back and watch some of our previous live streams, it's a fun fact of ours that we like to say is they breathe through gills like a fish. So they do want to be...
They're a crustacean, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a crustacean, like a crab. Yeah, they're closely related to crabs. But they want it to be nice and damp, and they love soggy, rotting wood. So if you've got a corner of your garden that you want to build up lots of bits of old wood, so you want this to be not treated, so you don't want to take bits of your shed that you built, bit of offcuts, and pile them up, because they're no good. They're covered in chemicals that the mini bees probably do not want to eat, probably quite dangerous for them. But if you get bits of wood like this one here is super soft. It's been out in the woods for a few years. I'm going to try and get in closer so you can see. If I rip off a bit of this bark, you can see, hold on, that it is absolutely stuffed with mini beasts. I don't know if you can see, but yeah, they absolutely love this. And the holes in this wood, that's not from the wood rotting necessarily from like fungi. That's the mini beasts themselves sort of eating and carving away at the wood as they fill up their bellies. Actually, there's a few eggs in that, so I'll make sure to take that back up to the woods later on.
And this is a great way if you cut down a hedge or if you cut down a tree in your garden, instead of chucking it out, instead of getting a skip to bin all of the stuff that was left over, you can just take the main stems, you can just chop them up, and you can just stack them up in a neat pile. It doesn't have to be a heap. Like, if you've got a load of fairly straight bits of wood like this, you can stack a few that way, you can stack a few across that way. You can make quite a nice, neat little pile that, yeah, can look quite good.
Yeah. So, from some very, very tiny little creatures to a
the things that eat them.
To a sort of bigger sized one. Shall we do bird boxes yet?
We'll do the bird boxes very quickly. So we did a live stream last week on bird boxes, so we'll link you to that one. So we won't go over these too quickly. So a bird box here. We do have packs available at Hollybush. So if you want to get sort of pre-cut pieces, then you can ask us, and we can possibly send some of them through to you. But you can also get bird boxes complete, or they are quite we've got the instructions that we can pop up in a post that that you can make them from scratch just with untreated or low chemical wood, and you can just saw them up, put the pieces together, and it's quite a nice, simple, quick thing if you don't have a massive drill that can do those holes.
So yeah, this one here is for things like tits, so blue tits and whatnot. It's got a hole in it here, and this one here, because I don't have access to a drill at home, what am I going to do? I can't build a bird box with a hole in the front. That's okay. You can just put a slat like this instead, and this is perfect for robins. And you want to put this about 2 meters up. So there are lots of varying heights for different birds, but the ideal is at least 2 meters off the ground. That's for their own protection from predators, things like pesky garden cat. So if you're planning on putting this up against the side of a fence or up on a building like this, you want to make sure your cat or your neighbourhood cats can't just climb down and get to the bird box, because you won't have any birds there.
You'll have a cat sat at the bottom looking wishfully up at them.
And again, super important to clean this at least once a year.
Around sort of November time is the best time to do that. And then the next one, just very, very quickly, we've got a bat box here, so it's similar to a bird box, but if you've ever seen a bird box, you can't see where the entrance is, it's got these sort of slits at the bottom. That's for bats to sort of get up into there. So we had a volunteer asking us about what bat boxes are. So that's a bat box. Over to you.
So here you can see
we have tiny shed.
A big, you've got a tiny shed or a big shoebox. So this here is for hedgehogs. So this one is a work in progress at the moment, but we're going to send out some information on how to build one of these for yourself later on today, probably.
Yeah, but we'll just talk through the importance of them. And we are going to, I think, do a live stream with Tom again. So Tom from the woodwork courses did the live stream with us last week on bird boxes. So we're going to get him back in about a month to sort of run through more step by step how to make these. So we're not just rushing through these excessively. We will come back and give you more information. So please don't panic.
Hedgehogs, if you paid attention to Springwatch or the news recently, you'll know that hedgehogs are endangered, unfortunately. They're getting fewer and fewer. And they are, they're super important for the ecosystem, especially if you've got a veg patch. You probably would.
All flowers and your hostas are always getting eaten by slugs.
So hedgehogs, their favourite thing to eat is juicy slug. Yeah. They love gobbling them down. And if you want to encourage them into your garden, the best thing to do, even before you build one of these, is to cut a little slit at the bottom of your fence, because they can't climb over the fence.
They're not good climbers.
They're not too agile.
Oh, there's really lovely videos as well. If you've got steps that how you get in and out of the garden, you can just get a sort of a brick or a stone and put them up so there's little half steps so you can get a little hedgehog ramp going up the side. Yeah, they're not great at traversing as he roams. I think that's part of the yeah. They're very much evolved to move slowly. They've got spikes. If they're trying to escape predators, they roll off into a ball, and they're not used to having to fight or run. So beautiful and amazing as they are, and sort of pretty iconic of the British countryside, they're not good at escaping cars. They're not good at escaping rapidly changing habitats. So there's actually now they're doing worse in the countryside than they are in urban areas in cities. So they're not good at when the vast areas of arable land are given over to crops. They're not good at sort of moving. They can't roam. They can roam a mile a night. They move surprisingly far for something that
more than I move
along.
in a night.
Yeah, so they do move, but they can't move. They can't migrate in the same way that some animals can. So you need to help put stuff in place where they are. So they're also a really good indicator species. So they eat the wood slopes. They help protect your plants. They help to maintain a healthy garden balance. But they tell you if there's worms and things in your soil. They tell you if you've got good soil health. They tell you if you've got enough organic matter in your soil and you've got a really well compositioned garden. So if you've got hedgehogs, you know you're doing well. But yeah, you can also put in place things to help the hedgehogs. Because a lot of their habitat, a lot of people, like we were saying earlier, you've got your neat, tidy garden with your pavings, with your lawn, with your straight fence. So you've got to put something back. You're not leaving these big piles of sticks. You're not having these natural hedgerows, though you should have a natural hedgerow, just saying. But yeah, you can do something like this to help along the way.
Yeah. So this is super simple. We'll go into more detail when we go into building them in a few weeks' time. But it is essentially just a big box. So it's a big hollowed out box. Whoops. It's got an entryway here that you want to make sure you leave clear. So you might have the idea of covering it up with sticks to shelter, but that means that the hedgehog there won't want to go inside. They are light dependent, so they care about daylight. If you cover the front up, they'll just keep moving it out of the way, so it's best to just leave it open. But you want it in a nice shaded area that's cool, because a box like this could get very, very warm, and you want to put a lid on top of it that's waterproofed, because they will be wanting to stay in here and rest, and if it's full of water, it's not going to be any good, and they probably won't choose to stay in your garden.
So it is important that you keep it shady, because they do hibernate. So when they hibernate, at the moment they're starting to come out of hibernation, so there are being some sightings of them that are going. They're sort of in sleepy, waking up on a Sunday morning state at the moment.
They need a coffee.
They're looking for their coffee. They're sort of finding the food they can on a warm day. But if it's winter and there's a hot, sunny day, and it warms that box up and it makes them think that it's spring and they can come out of hibernation, then it means they're going to wake up earlier. The food sources aren't going to be available, and it's going to be really bad for them. So just keeping it somewhere cool and shady, but dry and sheltered as well, is really important, just for how they use it.
So you mentioned food there. If you do notice that your hedgehog house, you're lucky enough that you have a resident in your hedgehog house, not paying rent, but you're going to also try and feed them. If you notice that you have one living in and you want to give it a bit of food to live on, cat food, so meat-based cat food or dog food or cat biscuits are the best things to feed them with. They do eat slugs, so they will go around and try and hunt slugs and stuff. But if you're noticing that you've got a garden that is just paving or something like you've just got grass, if you put out some cat food for them, if you don't have a
dog
cat
food
yourself,
as well,
yeah,
cat biscuit, it just makes sure it's meat-based. So, and one thing that people do to have milk and bread and mealworms are something people like to put out. Really shouldn't. Do not put out bread, milk, and mealworms. The mealworm, they can eat one or two. They might eat something like that naturally in wild, but eating too many, especially dried ones, is just really bad for them. It just gives them loads of stomach problems. So the sort of hedgehog rescue places. Yeah.
Milk, you shouldn't even really give cats or dogs cow milk.
Yeah.
Most creatures are what we call lactose intolerant. They just have not got the enzymes for cow milk. So yeah, they do want water though. So going from this, if you don't have a source of water in your garden,
I'll just say, if the hedgehog's moving around in the daytime, this is a really, really common question. It's daytime. I've seen a hedgehog in my garden. What do I do? Is it okay? people get quite tempted to bring it inside. You shouldn't be bringing it inside. If you're warming it up, that means, again, if it's cold, it's meant to be going back to hibernation. You might well make it worse for it. But also, if you're, I'm going to talk really loudly because it's windy, so.
Oh, Helen Sims has said hedgehogs pay the rent by eating the slug, so she's happy.
Exactly, Helen. Very, very true. So, if you see a hedgehog out and about in the daytime, any time of year, they are nocturnal, they come out at night. If they're out in the day, there's something wrong with them. And take it, there's loads and loads of hedgehog rescue centres. They're a well-loved species across the country. Take them to get in contact, go on Facebook, go on in the internet, get in contact with someone like here, we can probably find you an answer, and get them to a hedgehog rescue centre or a wildlife centre, and they will deal with it. Don't try and take them home yourself. Don't try and feed them cat food. You're more likely to just extend the period of time until they need to go to a rescue centre.
And again, it is important that you do something about it. They aren't something like a little shrew or a rat. They are an endangered species.
They're on the IUCN Red List. They're endangered. They do need protection. So do try and get them.
Yeah.
Even if you can't catch it yourself, do try and report it. Keep an eye on where it is and get someone to come and pick it up if you can. And yeah, what was this about them needing a place to get water to drink, Alex?
Oh, my garden.
Tell me more.
It's wonderful. It's got beautiful block paving, it's got decking, and it's got grass. But the only source of water is the garden tap. I don't think the hedgehog is going to want to use the garden tap. So one thing you can do, if you want to, that is build a pond. So why am I holding a washing up bowl? So a pond itself, it's quite a big project to do. You can build them any size you want. But if you've got a smaller garden, you can always get an old washing up bowl like this. This one is a bit tatty, it's a bit gross. I wouldn't want to wash up my plates in it. You can put this down in the ground, you dig a small hole, pop this in the dirt, and fill it up with rainwater if you can. If you don't have a water butt with rainwater, you can always use tap water if you put some tablets in it. So you buy sterilizing tablets for water, which get rid of all the harmful chemicals. Neutralizing tablets, not sterilizing tablets, neutralizing tablets. Because our drink water, it's great for us to drink, but we've gotten used to it. We drink things like chlorine and other chemicals that are okay for us. Smaller creatures can be quite damaging if they're submerged in it all the time.
Not good for amoebas.
Yes, yeah. And you'd want to put one side in a slope. Again, you can go back. I think we've got maybe 4 live streams on the Skeleton Grange Facebook. We will link them in the comments later on.
We did them in spring and in summer, so at the moment it is still winter. It's not the best time for gardens to look beautiful, which is kind of why we're showing you what you can be making. Yeah. So everything's hibernating, everything's sleeping, even the things that are alive and hot, so all in the sludge at the bottom and not looking the most charismatic. So it's worth going and looking at the videos from the summer. I think I'll ask Harry or Toby if they can fish it out. There's some really amazing footage that somebody took at Skeleton Grange of like microorganisms in the pond there. But yeah, have a look at our videos on the Close to Nature thing. Hopefully, Hayes can share them.
So, speaking of fishing out, Freya, this isn't big enough for a fish.
Why would you want fish, Alex?
Oh, I like fish. I want my nature pond to have fish in. Shouldn't I have fish?
No, so you don't. If you're making a nature pond, you don't want fish in it. So one thing that fish do is they eat loads. They eat everything in their sight. And if you get a goldfish or even like another more native type of fish, they will just eat everything. In the sort of scale pond you're going to have in your garden, it's not going to be big enough to support an eco. So I'm really trying to shout because I know that it's been difficult for people to hear us. So I might be bellowing at the camera.
I think it's okay. What?
Yeah, it's really important because they'll just eat everything. They'll eat all the tadpoles, they'll eat all the little invertebrates. They'll just destroy it. It won't be a wildlife pond. It will be a fish pond. We talked about this in another thing. If you really, 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 really want a fish pond, think about making maybe another layer so you can have a terrace, and then you've got one bit that doesn't have fish in it. Try and have something that, or ideally, have it completely no fish. Woohoo! But if you really want your fish pond, just think about how you can make a little area which is completely separated from fish, just so there's a sort of refuse place. Like how on the motorway they're talking about bringing back hard shoulders. Give them a hard shoulder. Give the invertebrates a hard shoulder.
So I think you'd be genuinely quite surprised by how many creatures you will find in something this sort of size. So this is just regular washing up board, but the life that this could have inside of it is amazing. It would have millions of things living inside of it, given a few weeks. If you pop this in the ground, you go out after a couple of weeks, it probably will look very similar. It takes a while. It's a slower process, but you would be surprised by how much life this could contain. And again, it's life that then helps the other life in your garden. So you can go have it just a bare patch of grass with just a few little things like this. You can have your own little sort of wilderness.
Yeah, and it's good. One thing we have been talking, because we've been doing both, we see it in the canal and stuff. Yep. So now is the time of year the frogs are starting to produce frog spawn. And you might be building your wildlife pond at home and thinking, this is a really common question. So don't feel like loads of people make this mistake. People going, oh, have you got frog spawn? Can I have some? Categorically, no, you cannot. You should never, ever take frog spawn or a frog or an amphibian from a habitat in the wild and put it in your garden. You make the habitat in your garden, you make it suitable, and you just have to wait. You have to wait until they come and they move in of their own accord. If you start moving stuff from one place to B, they're kind of not quite migratory, but they have fairly set routes they travel on. They also are really susceptible to infections, so bacterial infections, fungal infections are really, really dangerous.
Their skin, they breathe through their skin.
They breathe through the skin. It's really porous. It's got this. It's just really susceptible for these things to travel in. So if you're moving them, you can spread these diseases. And a lot of amphibian species, so the group that frogs and newts and toads are part of, are dying out because of the spread of these fungus. So you may be being like, I'm building a wildlife pond. I'm going to have frogs. If you move the frog spawn in, chances are you're killing frogs. You're doing the opposite of what you're able to do. So please, 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 just wait. And it can be annoying because you're like, but you can go, if you know there's a pond that has frog spawn and you know it has tadpoles, you can go for a walk and you can go and look at them, and you can have the hope of looking forward to when they move into your pond, just not the immediate gratification of putting them in.
Yeah.
Have you talked about the ramps?
I was going to go.
Brilliant.
So chances are, even if you get frogs, you are going to get things that come visit this water source. And you want them to be able to get to the water, but then also get away from the water. So if you've just got a pit in your garden, things will come and they might fall in and they won't be able to get back out. So you want to make sure that one side of your bowl or barrel or whatever you build it out of has a ramp in. So we might put in a rock or like a plank just to make sure that it slopes out of one side. And again, that means that things can get in and have a drink, but it also means you've got things like larvae that things come and lay in the pond. It means that they can climb out again. So if you have dragonflies,
like frog spawn.
Well,
so
frogs is like yeah.
The tadpoles, they live in the pond, but then as soon as they grow little legs, they need a way of getting out again. Well, they can breathe underwater. They're amphibians, they can breathe underwater, but they do eventually need to get out. They don't live in ponds for most of the year, so they need a route out. If hedgehog falls, so the hedgehog's gone for a drink, it wants to sort of put its legs in. If it then falls in, it's not getting out again. They can't swim and they can't climb. You'll have a very sad sight of your wildlife pond. So yeah, make sure you've got a ramp. Also, make sure that you're making a way in. So we kind of talked about. So we've been talking about how you could stack the logs up, how you can make the habitat pile. You can incorporate this in. You could either bury it so that the soil's down to there, so it's just at ground level. Or if you don't have that, if you've only got pavings or something, you can get your logs from earlier. You can get some pretty ones or some pretty rocks, and you can sort of, oh, where's the camera? Stack them up around there, get thinner ones, and you can make it so it's sort of embedded that way and surround it all the way around. And then you've got your habitat for your invertebrates. You've got the woodlice and things living in your log pile, but you've also then got your pond in the middle. So you've got a little complete ecosystem. We are going to come back to mini wildlife ponds. We've done big wildlife ponds. We'll come back in a few weeks and do a full live stream of making one of these with more details, more ways you can make it look nice. We need to figure out where we can put it. But yeah, we'll come back to that in more detail.
Dive in, go into a bit more depth.
But the keys are, but yeah, you can try and find yourself a container that you want in between now and in the next couple of weeks, and then come back and do it. You can maybe be ready to go when that live stream happens. Sort of do it as a workshop with kids if you're still, when they go back to school, 8, is it?
I don't know, I don't care. Just do it whenever. Kids love ponds.
Yeah, do it when the
kids love ponds.
Or do it when the kids are out of the way and you can build a pond and road.
Do it for yourself. Do it, yeah. Because I mean, you know, some of this stuff you might think, oh, this is, you know, it's like building a small mini beast. Oh, that's ridiculous. But honestly, it's so much fun. You get so much out of it, knowing that you're building something.
And the connection to nature as well. I've had it before and sort of running a workshop and it's like, oh, that sounds fun, so we'll do it. It's like, oh no, but I've not got kids. It's like, but you want to do it. You think it sounds fun. You can do it. Do it. Have a wildlife pond on your balcony. You probably won't get a hedgehog on your balcony, but you'll still sort of get the different vertebrates recreate. You probably also won't get frogs. Frogs are another thing. They also eat slow.
They can jump down.
Frogs can. Yeah, frogs jumping off a multi-story tower block. Cool. So we've done bees. Have we had any questions that we need to ask? Give it a quick scroll through.
Yeah. If you do have any questions, now is the time to ask them.
So yeah, we will be doing the live streams every Wednesday for a while longer. We're not stopping. So do keep an eye on our Facebook page, our YouTube. We'll be doing these every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. If there's any subject you particularly want us to cover, like that was great about the habitat box, the bug boxes, but please do another one to go more in detail on how to make them. If you want more on how to make a bat box, or how to make a hedgehog box, or a mini pond, those will all be coming up, or they might be in our back catalogue on the Close to Nature album on our Facebook pages. Yeah. It's all a bit confusing. So we're TCV Leeds, it's kind of split between TCV Skeleton Grange and TCV Hollywood and YouTube. So if there's something you want, we'll either send you a link to where it is, or we'll plan in for it to come up in the future. Do we have any? We had a little comment which I saw earlier, which was Judy saying that you've got a mini beast hotel here. Good to hear that volunteers take the wildlife home with them, but not physically. Don't take the frogs. Don't take our
feel free to message us either in this comment section or on Facebook or email if you've got anything that you really want to do and you're thinking, oh, I might, you know, I want to help in hand with this, or I want to know a bit more detail about it. We might have already done it, so you can check the back catalogue, or you can ask us to do a live stream on it.
Or if you've seen something in a local park or something where you're like, I'm pretty sure that's for nature.
Yeah.
That looks like it's for conservation, but what is it?
Yeah.
Just send us a picture, because there's lots of really innovative ways that people can make stuff that's not necessarily that obvious, but look really pretty. Like we've just shoved some sticks in a box, but we've got some here where they're all sort of made into patterns. You can make really quite pretty designs. There's one up in the garden shaped for Judy and Jack with Mini Beast Hotel.
Look at this one. I have to say, I don't know who made this. I honestly don't know who made this, but whoever did, well done. It's wonderful.
The bee has the bees in the shape of the bee. It's very good.
Anyway.
So yeah, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. I think we had to cover a lot of topics.
It was a whistle stop tour.
So we did fly through. That wasn't meant to be an instruction on how to make anything in detail. So if you couldn't follow those instructions, please don't feel like that's you struck. That's because we were just flying through to give the sort of concept of why you might want mini beast hotels, why you might want wildlife habitat boxes. We'll come back to others in a slower fashion, or hopefully we'll be able to do sort of woodwork courses and things at Hollybush soon. So yeah, they'll be starting. Keep an eye out, and you might be able to come and join a short course and make your own. Or we are making these sort of flat packs that people can make a bit easier if they don't have woodwork stuff. Or we do sell habitat, just to do a slight shameless plug. If you do want, if you we'd rather that you made it yourself, we'd rather get people involved and really interactive with it, but we really understand that actually you might not have time to make it, you might not have the skills, you might not have the confidence, and we do have them available that we can get to people if you would like to have a pre-made one. And we can make some that if you've got one that you want to make bespoke, slightly different to what we've got, we've got these pretty ones that are a bit different like this one. Do get in touch, we might be able to. Tom's very good at making lots of different stuff. Bird tables as well. We've got that beautiful bird table in our bird watch one. Brilliant. I think we've talked enough.
Yeah, so apart from all the apart from all my language difficulties, apart from the technical difficulties today, hopefully it went smoothly. Hopefully the audio is okay. But yeah, so I've been Alex.
And I've been Freya. And yeah, we will see you next Wednesday morning when we'll be doing fruit tree pruning. So now is you may think, oh, I'm meant to prune my fruit trees already. Like, no, we're still in good time. Over the next couple of weeks, perfect time for pruning your apple and your pear trees. So we will be running through how to winter prune fruit trees next week.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. See you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.